Start now.
Hey guys, today we'll be having a little bit of conversation between me and Chris here to talk about how Oxen is going to capture some of the value from Session in terms of monetization. We released an article a few months ago about this, but we just wanted to have kind of a bit more of an open conversation and let you guys in on some of the ways that we're thinking about monetizing Session in the future. So we hope you guys will join us for this one.
How's the growth of Session going?
Pretty good. WhatsApp and their shenanigans have really helped us out a bit with growing our user base. We, since the monetization article that went in February, our user numbers are up about 100%, which is great. And yeah, we sort of, as we bring out more features, we have different expectations on how we're going to be growing, such as phone calls. And yeah.
Well, we've gone from about 20,000 users at the start of this year to about 100,000 users now. So the growth is pretty good. If we continue on that trajectory, we'll be looking at, much higher amounts of users over the next kind of 6 months. And yeah, it is going to be a thing that's about the features that we add to the application as well. Like, we know that a lot of people are requesting voice calls, for example. We know that a lot of people want to see increased performance in the application, and those are the things that we'll be focusing on over the next 6 months, so that we know that we can kind of grow to that level where we have millions of users using the application every day. So yeah, it's going well, but we want to see it go better, obviously. We always want to see ourselves grow more, so we're focusing on the features that kind of people are requesting the most.
Yeah, and we're sort of we're doing a massive overhaul on Android coming out over the next week or two. Probably when this video goes live, maybe should have said that. But we're really focusing on sort of the biggest part of our user base. So Android is like 97% of users. So we're really honing in on that, making that experience fantastic, and then also adding features that we're getting requested, such as phone calls and all that sort of stuff. Bigger data transfers. Do we have an ETA on that?
Well, increased file size, that's going to be related to when LokiNet gets integrated. So actually LokiNet integration is going to bring along a lot of new kind of cool features like voice calls, increased file size caps, and probably increased performance as well. So
yeah, that's nice.
So how does offering a free version of Session assist the Oxen network?
So I think most people are maybe assuming that a free version of Session only kind of detracts from the services that the service node network provides. Obviously, there is a reality, which is the service node network only has a limited amount of bandwidth and storage, right? And the more people that you get on, the more that bandwidth and storage is consumed. But the reality is, the more kind of free users that we get into the application, the more users will be able to monetize out of the application as well. And it also plays on kind of a psychological aspect of things. People are much less likely to pay for things if they have no idea what level of service they're going to be provided. And if you provide a free version of the application and someone is, kind of really keen on the application, they're much more likely to go and buy Session Pro after that. And also, there's a lot of reasons as well. You look at the network effect that you create as well. If everyone has friends on Session, even if they're using the free version, they're much more likely to buy the Pro version. So I think that's always been the kind of way that we've been looking at it, is to provide a free version for people who can't afford the paid version, or maybe just want to try things out, and then offer the Pro version on top of that.
Yeah, the core of Session will always be free though.
Yeah. And I guess also for those users that we're targeting, they're kind of like human rights activists or journalists, they might not necessarily have the funds to pay for a paid version of Session, right? But we still want to offer them, the privacy benefits, the benefits to being able to communicate without kind of being censored or, being spied on. So that's always going to be something that we offer.
And the free version as well just gives us a bigger community. So if we have 1 million free users, we have 1 million users who are part of our community all of a sudden. And I see that as beneficial for the project overall.
Well, there's a lot of free users that end up going on to discover about Oxen, the coin itself. Just starting on Session, they find out that it's a cool application, and then they move on to Oxen, and they might like the project then and invest in Oxen. So it's always good to have more users, I think.
So why pay for Session Pro when there are other free alternatives?
I think it's because Session is offering a unique kind of user experience. Like, there's nothing really out there that is offering the level of privacy that we do with the onion requests, with the fact that there's no kind of mobile phone numbers and you're using like a kind of long session ID. And, you know, you're also kind of communicating in such a way that the metadata that you're sending is like ultra minimized. I think we're actually fully unique in that aspect of things, and when people come to me and talk to me about why they use Session, that's usually the stuff that they tell me as well. It's a combination of the onion routing, the no phone numbers, the metadata reduction that we do. So I think it's not always about trying to convert every user that you have into being a paid user. There'll always be a version of Session that's free, and we talked about that before and the reasons why we want that. But Session offers such a unique experience that I think that some users will want to pay for the upgraded features that we're offering here.
Yeah, and the features that will be paid features will be great features, like high speed, private data transfers, and high quality calls, or this. What you pay for will be great.
Yeah.
Like, we're not just going to add a couple of bells and whistles that do nothing. Like, we're going to do it for a reason, and it's going to be enjoyable.
Yeah, well, keep in mind as well, for example, like onion routed voice calls, that's not a thing.
It's not a thing.
We are building it.
Yeah.
So, and we're building it in a very consumable way. So I think those are kind of the reasons that people will be interested in paying for Session.
Yeah.
For these pro features, and there's going to still be users that use the app for free as well.
How does Session have a competitive advantage?
Well, from my perspective, it is the most private messenger out there, and we don't actually make concessions in terms of lowering people's privacy to be able to offer them, you know, kind of a usable messenger as well. So it's the usability and privacy kind of trade-off that's not trade-off.
Balance. Perfect
balance. It's a balance. Yeah, it's a balance between kind of offering user privacy at the maximal level and also offering a nice user experience. And I think that's kind of what Session achieves in a really nice way. It's a constant kind of battle to get to that level. Like, it doesn't come easy creating something that's so private, but also kind of really usable as well. And I think that's really kind of, if you were to call out a niche, that would be the niche that kind of Session fits into. But I think actually you would maybe call it a niche 5 years ago, but privacy is becoming so important these days that, you know, everyone kind of wants a private messaging application that's usable.
Yeah, every data leak, every application that Facebook buys and then changes the terms of service.
Yeah.
They're looking for something different.
Yeah, I would say that's where we fit, and particularly on the like kind of really aggressive about privacy side of things as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of hardcore users out there, and they really value what we're doing. So, yeah.
What are the types of companies you could partner with, and why?
So I think we've already kind of been seeing this on the foundation side, that the foundation has mostly been focusing its partnerships around human rights and kind of activist organizations. So if you look at Blueprint for Free Speech and Engage Media, those were some recent partnerships that we did. And that gave us a lot of information on the Session side about how kind of activists and human rights defenders use Session. And some of that has been incorporated to kind of make the application work better and target our translations to areas where we think that Session is going to be used by those groups of people. I think kind of looking further ahead, anyone who kind of wants the ability to be able to communicate with someone in a different country and that communication to stay safe and secure could offer a path to partnership. And I can think of a lot of organizations that are kind of becoming more and more privacy focused who might want to look at an application like that. People who are creating these kind of more secure hardware devices, for example, that are looking for messengers to embed on their hardware, might look at Session, for example, as one of the messaging applications that they kind of pre-install.
Yeah, we have been reached out to by a few hardware manufacturers around the world that we're,
Well, it's always hard to know with hardware manufacturers as well, because often people will shoot up on the scene and they don't really have much reputation. So it's always a an element of, you know, gauging out these partnerships and working out how they're going to be beneficial to the both of the companies that are engaging there.
Yeah, not something we can rush into.
Yeah, true.
How can Session get to 1 million plus users?
Well, I think we kind of talked about this in some of our previous answers, but it's really about giving users the features that they're requesting. So recently we did a survey and we kind of asked, like, you know, what are some of the what are some of the things that you wish were in Session, and what are some of the things that are kind of making you use Session less? And a lot of the answers that we got were related to voice calls. A lot of people want to see voice calls. And then the kind of second biggest answer was performance related issues, so that when people open the application, messages can come in a little bit slower than they expect. And those are two things that we really want to address over the next couple of months, and that we have developers working on right now. So I would say if those issues get resolved and we have a kind of more concerted advertising campaign alongside of those issues being solved, I think we can reach 1 million users. I think it's actually likely.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard for us because we really value users' data and we don't want to take it. We don't do any tracking or anything like that.
Yeah.
But we really need the information from the users.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing a lot more surveys, a lot more analytics wherever we can, and just bring the data together to clearly define what we need to do to get to those numbers. And that's the path that we're taking.
Yeah, so if you see something in the Session application in the settings area which is like, oh, do you want to go do a poll? That's how we're collecting information about what users want, and that's going to really help us grow to 1 million users. So yeah, do the surveys and do the polls and tell us what you want, because it actually affects what we work on, what the team just behind us works on.
What's the effect of burning Oxen?
So there's 4 kind of primary things that we're looking at when we're looking at burning Oxen. The first thing would be that it creates a constant buy-side pressure. So all of that money that is being spent for subscribing to Session Pro is essentially being pushed back into the markets directly. And that's obviously making Oxen more valuable as more and more is bought by the foundation and then burned. And the thing about that is that it equally benefits all Oxen holders. So if you're a holder of Oxen right now, you're benefiting just as much as the foundation is, because they're a holder of Oxen as well. And it's like a kind of a boon for the entire ecosystem that there's this buy and burn program going on at all times. The other nice kind of things is that it creates a link between the service node network and the services that they provide to, for example, Session users, and the rewards that they get. So as we see the network kind of growing in the amount of users that it's serving, the strain on the service node network gets harder and harder for them to deal with. So we need like a balancing force for them to be able to kind of pay their server bills and stuff. And that balancing force is the fact that the Oxen that they're being rewarded becomes more and more valuable as we kind of go down this buy and burn route. And the last thing is it obviously offsets the emissions that the service nodes get rewarded for servicing these Session providers as well. So it creates a really nice loop between kind of all of the parties in Session, the buy and burn program.
There are some successful examples of this. I guess you can look at FTX token or Binance token. It's kind of what they do as well. They grab all the fees from, what do they do? Grab fees and then...
Yeah, so for every transaction or every trade that is done on FTX or Binance, they'll take a small portion of that trade and they'll essentially buy their native token, whether that be the Binance token or the FTT token, and burn a little bit of it. So it's a similar kind of model to what they're doing in the exchange world, but we're actually applying this to kind of a real world product with users, which hasn't necessarily been done before. At least I'm not aware of a messenger that's doing it in this case.
Yeah, same.
How will you monetize Session? Is it going to be a one-off payment or subscription model or hybrid or both?
I don't want to get people too locked into one idea here, but we are considering a subscription would be the perfect model for us, because we want that ongoing we want to get that ongoing money coming in that will go towards buying back Oxen and supporting the network. So if you're doing some power user things, such as like transferring huge bits of data, 5 gig here, 5 gig there, every day, multiple times, you're putting stress on the network, and it's ongoing. It's not, so a once-off payment of $3 or $5 won't cover that after 12 months time. So we'd like to do some sort of model where it's an ongoing payment. You can either pay yearly or monthly, and you'll get all the sort of a package of services included.
Yeah. And the other thing about the once-off payment is that it's hard to price as well, because you're trying to price that user's use of the network over, potentially 3 or 4 years, which is going to be a larger cost, and then they're going to be more reluctant to, sign up for that cost as well.
Yeah.
I think it's much easier to say to a user to pay $2 or $3 per month than it is to say, pay $100 or $200 up front, and then for us to not really be sure whether that's actually going to cover the strain that they put on the network as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we would say that we're strongly tending towards a subscription model right now. That's the way that things are looking.
Why not burn Oxen directly inside Session?
So I think it really comes down to how easy it is for Session users to burn. Because if we wanted people to acquire Oxen in the application, that's kind of a lengthy, more difficult process. You'd need to go to an exchange, for example, buy Bitcoin or Ethereum, then send it to KuCoin, then buy Oxen and send it to Session to be burnt. The way we're looking at it is just we're going to do most of the burning, or probably a majority of the burning, through in-app payments. So when someone wants to subscribe to Session Pro, all they need to do is do a small in-app payment through Google Play or Apple Pay, and the burning happens automatically without them ever even seeing that the burning is occurring. All they really know is that they just subscribed and they got some new features from Session Pro. They don't actually know that an Oxen burn is going on, but it's just happening transparently for them, and that's a much easier user experience than saying that every user has to go and buy Oxen and do the process manually.
Yeah, look, we probably could do it now with the hardcore users, but the goal is, over the next 12 or so months, you could just be a Session user, not knowing about Oxen. You don't have to know about Oxen, but using any of the premium services will help the network.
What type of premium features is Session going to see in the future?
So there's a pretty long list of things that we know that we want to do now, but there'll obviously be features that come up as well, kind of while we're developing over the next couple of years. The main ones that we want to look at are open group monetization features. So for example, being able to run your own open group at the click of a button, because right now you have to use a server to kind of set things up, and we want to have something in the app so you can set up your own open group, just clicking a button and it's done, similar to a Telegram channel. File storage, so increase file storage size. Right now the cap is at 10 megabytes. We want to raise the free kind of cap to somewhere around 25 megabytes, but going above and beyond 25 megabytes, we think that that's a feature that we can put monetization on. File backups, so being able to have your Session account backed up to the cloud if you want, that's only if you want, type monetization feature, so that, for example, if you lose your device, you're able to get all of your messages and content that you received back. ONS, obviously that's one in the application right now, so you can have a username that's essentially stored on the blockchain for all of time that maps to your Session ID. Stickers and emojis. This might seem like a kind of weird one, but people love stickers and emojis in Telegram.
Yeah, personalized.
Yeah. I know people who use Telegram only for the stickers and emojis because they have, a great, fantastic experience there. That's something that we want to add into the application, and it'll probably be something similar to like the Discord model of stickers, where you can use them in one-to-one and closed group chats, but maybe if you want to go on someone else's open group server, then you have to get the Session Pro monetization feature to be able to use your sticker packs in other people's servers. Voice chat length and quality, so in terms of when we add voice calls to the application, being able to call someone with higher quality, like higher bitrate calls, or maybe we'll look at having some kind of length limitation, so you can't have calls over an hour or something without paying for Session Pro. Closed group size, so right now the max on closed groups is 100 members. We're thinking that Session Pro users might be able to create larger closed groups, because obviously that creates a little bit more kind of pressure on the service node network, so we need that to be compensated a little bit for by a user paying. Multi-account is another feature as well, so being able to connect up multiple accounts, so you can have multiple Session IDs under the same kind of client. That's really a power feature and something that people have been asking for, but because it does, again, create a little bit more strain for the network, we think it's a good feature for Session Pro monetization. And the other ones are kind of like badges, for example, that you could put on your profile, similar to maybe like the blue check mark that people get on Twitter to say, oh, hey, like I support the Oxen network by subscribing to ONS, or, you know, doing things like that. So little badges that you can show against people. So those are the main ones we're thinking of. I know that was a very long list, but that's probably, you know, the features that we've just thought of in the last couple of months. There'll inevitably be way more things that we look at in terms of being able to monetize.
And yeah, the way that we roll these things out is going to be very, you know, like how easy is it to implement, how many people are actually willing to pay for this, and even if they got this feature, like, is it what they want? So we're doing a lot of research into prioritizing these in the best order as well for most effective use.
Definitely. Voice calls.
Oh, everybody wants voice calls, yeah. So yeah, that's going to happen.
Will Session integrate an Oxen wallet in the future to facilitate in-app fund transfers?
Yes, it is something that we want to do. It's probably going to take the backseat though to some of the other features like voice calls that we were talking about before. Wallets have been a requested feature for since the start of Session, because it actually makes sense. I mean, to be able to privately transfer funds between someone with a messaging application is a user experience that a lot of people are familiar with, especially people you know, who come from countries like China, for example, where the main method of you paying for things is to use your mobile phone and send, you know, money through WeChat Pay. So I think it actually makes sense for us to do something similar, albeit a lot more private than WeChat Pay, inside of Oxen. So it is something that we're going to do, but I think really what we're focusing on right now is the most requested Session features first, and then building up to that level.
Yeah, definitely. I think the goal is grow user numbers based off what they want. And then I think one of the other things that's sort of not holding back, but why we're probably going to hold back a little bit in terms of introducing the wallet to Session, is that we are working on sort of a rewrite of the core of the wallets as well. Yeah. And once that's completed, reliability and usability of the wallets would be so much better. So actually implementing it now would mean that would have to re-implement it again in the future, and there'd be quite a bit of work to it. So we may as well just do it once, a little bit later on when the user experience will be much better as well.
Yeah, definitely.
What's the timeline for all of this?
So with monetization, it's interesting because we have a lot of ideas that we could probably, you know, implement in the next couple of months. But the question with monetization is you don't want to turn users off by offering monetization too early before you kind of built up a base of users. So really what we're trying to focus on over the next year, or kind of 6 months to a year, is growing the Session user base to a level where monetization will actually kind of make a dent in making Oxen sustainable. Right now at 100,000 users, it doesn't really make sense for us to go into the Oxen monetization or the Session monetization space right now. But it's stuff that we're looking at, and it's stuff that we're planning for and making sure that the application is ready for when it comes. So I would say like maybe at the start of next year will be when we start looking at implementing some of these features. They'll probably first be free for all users, or a test version will be available, and then we'll look at, you know, how those features perform in the application. Are people giving us positive feedback about them? And we'll tweak those. So probably at mid next year or the end of next year, we'll have a lot of data about how each feature works and what type of users are using that feature, and then we'll know, you know, okay, this is going to be something that's valuable to the Session, you know, to put in Session Pro, and move from there.
But between now and then, though, we are doing a lot of research. We're creating a lot of surveys, and we are going to be reaching out to the community as much as we can to get their feedback. So the next few months are sort of research, understanding what users really want, understanding what users will pay for, packaging that up into a service or product that will be a perfect fit for our market and our users, and to sort of grow as best we can. So I think by mid next year, we'll be in a good place to sort of bring out, integrate these monetization features. But it won't be the full package. I should just shut up there.
Yeah, I hope everyone liked listening to that little conversation between me and Chris. Just talking
and
about,
Josh,
and Josh, talking about kind of, you know, how we see the future of Session monetization. But it's important to say that like this is just one of the things that we'll be doing over the next kind of couple of months to make it more clear what the link between, you know, all of our different products is and the Oxen price or the performance of the Oxen token. You know, we understand, of course, that people have been wanting to know more about this and wanting to see what we think about how Oxen is actually going to capture some of this value. So I think we'll be having more conversations and chats like this and bringing you guys in just so it's more clear kind of the directions that we're going.
Yeah, for sure. And I would ask that if you want to support us, run a service node and also answer the surveys when they start going out over the next few months. It's going to be really valuable to us and helping us make the best product for the users.
Definitely. All right, thanks guys.
Thanks.